No way. That's how it's regen. Unbelievable. Well, at least I got it on camera this time. All right, so my throttle just died on me again. I just replaced this throttle, so unclear why. Basically no power. I was coming up a hill and I noticed that the regen started shuddering a little bit. Now, if I look in the back, you can see, or you should be able to see, the light still comes on. So, seems like the regen's engaging. All right, another adventure. We're gonna try to pedal this thing part of the way home. So I just got off the phone with an ONYX representative. So once again, just sort of a recap of what's going on. Basically, I've had my original stock throttle, which is right here. It basically burnt out. Or it's not clear if there's actually something wrong with the throttle or it's something with the controller. But basically, this throttle just stopped becoming responsive. Everything else turned on. Battery worked fine. Nothing was going wrong. But the throttle, when you actually twisted it, basically sent no power to the hub motor. Now, at the time, I didn't fully realize what was going on, but I finally opened up the side panel and I realized that my Kelly controller was throwing what is a 2.4 error. So basically, I let ONYX know that the Kelly controller was throwing a 2.4 error code, the throttle wasn't working, so they sent me a replacement. And that is what's currently on the bike right now. So, I installed the replacement controller maybe about 2 weeks ago. I got about 17 miles on it. On the new controller, everything was working great. And, on the new throttle, everything was working great on the throttle. Went about 17 miles. And then coming up a hill, deployed the regen. And then this stopped working as well. So, sort of the same issue. Now, when I went down and I opened up the control panel one more time, I got a different Kelly controller error. This is a 3.4 error. So that you can look this up in the PDF, but basically these are both throttle errors. That's all I can say. I do not know what that means. So I had talked to John Angel. John Angel wasn't sure exactly what was going on. He seemed to think that it could be an issue with the USB. And that the USB is actually powered on this version of the ONYX via the Kelly controller. And so he was saying that maybe some kind of short in the USB might cause some issue with the Kelly controller, and then that causes the Kelly controller to then fry the throttle. And so that was sort of his idea. I'm paraphrasing it, but that was sort of the idea from what I got. So he suggested trying to pop off the USB cable, which also controls, things like your headlights, your turn indicators, and your horn. So I did unplug that, and that did nothing. Now, according to his theory, that jives in the sense that, if the USB was shorted and then sent something to the Kelly controller, then fried the throttle, then the throttle's already dead. So unplugging the USB is not going to do anything at this point. So that was disappointing. So John Angel's suggestion was go buy a new throttle, like another $6 throttle from Alibaba or whatever, try to get a replacement from ONYX, and then disconnect the USB and then see what happens. Go and ride and see if it craps out again. And if it does, then it's got to be something wrong with the controller. It's not coming from the USB. If it doesn't, well, then maybe the problem was with the USB sending some signal through the Kelly controller and frying the throttle. So I just got off the phone with ONYX today, and they definitely did not say that. they didn't really want to hear about the USB issue. They just went to directly, oh, it's the controller, which again, maybe that's what it is. Interestingly, both John Angel and ONYX both said they've never, I'm like one of the very few, maybe less than 2 or 3 people who have ever experienced a 2.4 or a 3.4 error on their controllers. So I don't know, maybe it's a dud. This bike has 615 miles on it, something like that, 614. I mean, it's, they didn't like when I said it was brand new. Okay, it's not brand new, but it's been barely ridden. And, you know, for a $6,000 piece of equipment, having it fail spectacularly twice is pretty disappointing. So, anyway, ONYX did tell me, they gave me one suggestion, which was pop on the original stock controller, throttle, excuse me, pop that on and see what happens. So I'm gonna give that a go. So we've got the original throttle plugged in now. I'm gonna turn it on and hope that this thing doesn't get away from me. I think what I'll do is I'll sit on the bike just in case. So we're gonna turn it on. Okay, no sparking there. So throttle comes on, so that's good. You can still change between modes, that's good. Everything looks normal. Let's check out the Kelly controller. So the Kelly controller is throwing a 1, 2, 3. Interesting. So now this throttle is throwing a 3.4 error code, which mimics the replacement throttle that they sent me. Originally, this throttle threw a 2.4 error code. So I'm not sure how to interpret that. I wanted to do a quick video just showing all of my settings. So this is on the AC monitor. The bike is on currently. Again, the throttle is not working. I'm getting this hall sensor error, so this is new. These are my settings on the first page. Sort of slowly scroll through. All right, second page. And third page. Okay, those are all my settings. So because I'm getting that hall sensor error on the Kelly controller app, I was thinking that maybe it has something to do with just a bad sensor coming from the motor. So I read that there are actually, so if you follow the motor line back, there are 2 harnesses that you can plug into, one of which is capped, the other of which is plugged in. So I think what I'm going to try to do is switch over to this one just to see what happens. And then if nothing happens, I'm going to put it right back. But maybe it's something wrong with the sensors coming from the motor. Okay, so I just got off the phone with John Angel. I sent him the video of the Kelly controller app, which was showing that hall sensor error. And he says this is one of the worst errors or problems you can get on an ONYX, so lucky for me. So there are 3 hall sensors that are, I believe, in this motor, somewhere around here. And it's possible that one of them is just gone. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move this, which goes into the controller, onto this. So hopefully we can bypass any potential errors that's coming from the wiring of the current setup. So one other thing that John had mentioned is that you can test to see if it's actually a hall sensor error by lifting the bike onto its side. You tilt the bike onto its left-hand side and rest it on the foot peg, and then you spin the wheel. And on the app, which I'll pull up in a second, there is a hall sensor A, B, and C. And that should be flickering on and off, I think, from 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. And that odometer reading should be going up. So if one of the hall sensors is faulty, then one of those hall A, B, or C values will not be changing. Okay, so we're gonna try to open the app now. So I'm gonna turn the bike on. The bike is now on. We're gonna say the motor's not running. We're gonna use Bluetooth connection. So let's see. It actually says that the hall sensor is 111 for all of them. So we're gonna try to tilt. I'm gonna like tilt the bike
And you
this
want me
way.
to spin it?
Yeah, I want you to spin the wheel. We put the bike sort of on its side so we could spin the back wheel freely. One of the things that John had mentioned to look out for was whether or not the odometer reading actually went up. It did not. That did not budge. We didn't spin it for that long, but we spun it long enough that it probably should have gone up a little bit more. So I might try that again, but all of the hall A, B, and C sensor readings were reading 1 and they did not move. So the next thing I'm going to do after I spin the wheel for a little bit more and just convince myself that the odometer reading is not getting any readings is I will go ahead and switch over the hall sensor harness to the backup harness. I've now connected this harness to the backup harness that connects to the hub motor. And I think we'll go ahead and turn this on. Actually, the first thing I'll do is I'm gonna check the Kelly controller app, so I'll record that and see what it says. Now, this is different. So already we're seeing something a little bit different. Before we only had Hall A, Hall B, and Hall C were all 1s. Now we have Hall C at 0. So that's a difference. I think what I'm gonna do before I actually try to engage the throttle, I'm gonna lift the bike back. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try to spin that wheel. The bike is being tilted back and I'm spinning the wheel. And that does not appear to be changing anything, unfortunately. The Hall A, B, and C do not seem to be changing. Okay, so back to recording. So the Hall error status is gone now that I've switched over to the backup line. But nothing really changed with the Hall sensors when I spun the back wheel. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna kick back the bike and I'm gonna go ahead and try to engage the throttle. And that is a bummer. Throttle is still not doing anything. So that's a shame. Gonna turn the bike on and off really quick. Throttle still does nothing. And again, this is the replacement throttle that ONYX had sent me, so that is a shame. All right. So the one thing that is different though is now we have a Kelly controller that is green. So the 3.4 error is gone. So that's interesting. So I'm gonna send a few of these videos to John. So I just plugged in my original stock throttle and it went back to blinking. Looks like it's the 3.4 again. 2, 3. Oh. No, it's the 2.4 error. So this was the original error I got on this throttle, was the 2.4 error. So it's just come back up again. And finally, just disconnected again the original throttle and reconnected the replacement throttle, and now we're back to a green light. So unclear what all of this means, but that's where I'm going to leave it for today.